and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. I just have something really short for you today. I just have another section of the Legacy of the Jedi by Jude Watson, who will write the young adult series Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, and The Last of the Jedi. And then also a short 5-issue comic book series titled The Dark Side. So, starting with the part 2, which is the Qui-Gon and Dooku section. Of course, in this little section, you don't have to do this with the book though. The last bit of this book is shortly after the events of episode 2, so you can technically read it there and just read all of it together. You don't have to do it how I'm doing it. I'm just really anal about that sort of thing, so that's how I'm doing it. But by no means do you necessarily have to do that if you just want to read it in one sequence. But I read the second part, which focused on Dooku and Qui-Gon, and it's pretty specific because there's usually a time jump between each and every part that's supposed to be the next section. So it'll say, like, this many years later, and that's how you know, oh, this is going to be, and it's going to have new people that you're focusing on. So now instead of just Dooku as a young lad, it's now Dooku. He is now an adult. Qui-Gon is his apprentice. I don't, without getting into spoilers, I thought it was it was so great. And I haven't even read the Jedi Apprentice series yet, which I've heard nothing but absolute praise for. And seeing the dynamic between Dooku and Qui-Gon, I already want more, because it's so different from most of what I've seen. There's a lot of pride that Dooku has for his apprentice, and yet he also gets rather aggravated with him at times for being so different from him. And I would love to just see more of this dynamic, of this relationship. We're never going to get that, but I would love it, especially if it's done by Jude Watson, because I think she is an expert when it comes to these relationships. We have this, we're going to have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in a bit. We'll have Obi-Wan and Anakin, which, of course, the whole prequels is about those characters, but getting more in depth with it, I'm sure she'll do great. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. If you can hear anything back there, it's my annoying child brother, and I can't do anything about it. I apologize if you can hear it. I'll try to speak louder so you can overhear that. And then we get to the Dark Side 5-issue comic book series, which is basically, I don't want to give too big of spoilers, but this was written after the Jedi Apprentice series, and is essentially a prequel origin story for a character that we'll meet in Jedi Apprentice by the name of Xanatos. And without getting too into spoilers, they head to this planet called Telos 4. There's some political drama stuff going on that planet. And stuff happens. Basically, let's just say Qui-Gon has an apprentice in this series, and it's not Obi-Wan. So something's got to happen so we can get another apprentice. So read the comic to find out, but I thought it was pretty good. Overall, just that little section of the book of the Legacy of the Jedi, and then that comic book, I thought were really good, really fun to read, and interesting, because we don't have much on Qui-Gon. He dies in episode 1. So I enjoyed the Old Republic, okay? The biggest stuff I was really wanted to dive into was the post-episode 6 content, which I've done, and I loved it. But I also love the prequels. There's more, I'm a younger guy, right? Obviously, I'm not like a 40-year-old like Matt Wilkins, old loser. I'm just kidding. You're not a loser. And you're not old. You're not old till you're like 50, mid-50, Then you're just an old person. Until then, you're just an adult. Anyway, you should go check out Matt Wilkins if you haven't. I feel like I say that in every video. But you should. Along with OG Star Wars, and list can go on. But I didn't grow up with the originals. I watched them, but I didn't grow up with them. I grew up with the prequels. And even then, The third movie came out in 2005. I was 4 years old, so I probably barely remember anything from the time, but I do remember watching them on DVD and loving them. Qui-Gon is such an interesting character. We don't have much of him in the movies. We only have that first film. So that's one of the wonderful things about the expanding universe. You can take a character that didn't get that much development. It's the same thing with Akbar. It's the same thing with Wedge. Qui-Gon got a bit more screen time than those guys, but even still, you can take a character that's established and expand upon him. That's the absolute wonder about the expanding universe, and I absolutely adore that. And so, we haven't even gotten to the young adult series yet, but just with this comic, getting a little bit more insight into his character, getting to see his dynamic with a Padawan that isn't Obi-Wan, that's really interesting. And we're still going to have to see how the relationship with Obi-Wan even, develops into the relationship we see by episode 1. So all that I'm looking forward to. But with this series alone, it's really interesting, and I want to know more about Qui-Gon. I want to focus on him more, and it's sad that the expanding universe has been discontinued, because I would have loved to see even more of Qui-Gon's life. I would have loved to see his time as an apprentice to Dooku. We probably will never get that, and more adventures with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan before episode 1, or more adventures with Qui-Gon and Xanatos even. I would be down, but flesh out Xanatos some more. I don't know. That's pretty much it for non-spoilers. Would I recommend that comic book series? Definitely. Even though I haven't finished The Legacy of the Jedi by Jude Watson story, would I recommend it? Yes, I would. Both are really good, and I'm just so excited to continue moving forward. But if you don't want spoilers, if you want to experience this for yourself, or you just don't care, or you're a veteran, I'm going to spoilers. So if you don't want that, you better click out. Otherwise, come along. I don't have much to say. Just that when we get into the story with the Dooku and Qui-Gon, he doesn't like Qui-Gon's instinct to help. Dooku's a very logical guy, except for, when he gets upset. And he doesn't like how, selfless kind of that Qui-Gon seems to be. Like his just need to help others. And then we also learned during this that Dooku is super powerful, but Qui-Gon seems to have a connection to the Force that Dooku just simply doesn't have, that is deeper. At least at this point in time. And that definitely frustrates Dooku. They eventually get attacked by pirates, and we learn, of course, that the lead pirate is Lorian. Lorian being Dooku's best friend from the Academy from the previous part of the story. Now he's back. He's this antagonist. I wouldn't exactly call him a villain. His motivations are actually really interesting. This is such a short section of a very short story, right? Because there's it's a storyline spread across different people in different times. Because we have Dooku and Lorian. Dooku, Qui-Gon, Lorian. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Lorian. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Lorian. And so that's just spread out. But Lorian himself is actually a really interesting character. And he's not exactly a villain. He's certainly an antagonist. But at the same time, everything he's talking about kind of makes sense. And he's clearly not evil. He even mentions how he gazed upon the Sith holocron, and he gazed what real evil was like, and that scared him. And I don't know, this is a children's novel, or not, it's a young adult novel. It didn't need to be good, and yet the writing is so good in it. Like, they didn't have to try this hard, but they did. Like, kids got this in Scholastic class, like the Scholastic book fairs and stuff, and yet they still tried. They made something good. They didn't have to, but they did, and I love that. And then, of course, Dooku just hates Lorian. He betrayed his trust, and he despises him. He wants to kill him. He's going to murder him. But Qui-Gon convinces him not to. And that stops him from going down a dark path. Though it's really only delaying the inevitable, because we've all watched episode 2. By the end of it, it's really interesting. Because Dooku's jealous that his old friend, who's a pirate, not even a Jedi has glimpsed the holocron, the Sith holocron. And he says, I, a Jedi master, should have every right to gaze upon the Sith holocron. Why did somebody so low be able to look upon it, but not me? And it's kind of where it ends. I just thought it was really interesting. One of the main things we learned from the Jedi the Dark Side comic is Xanatos is very, very cocky, very full of himself, very rude, except Qui-Gon. Their relationship tends to remind me of Obi-Wan and Anakin. Though while Anakin was often, he often argued with Obi-Wan, and yet to me, at least, maybe I'm crazy, there's always a sense of love. Like, yeah, they argued, they bickered, but they always loved one another as far as a Jedi could. Like, as far as Obi-Wan, thought, he could, bend that stick, he loved Anakin. And I know that Anakin loved him. Just excluding episode 3, before that, they had camaraderie. They fought a lot, because people, like to, bash on episode 2. But even before, the Clone Wars and their whole relationship, even still, at least from what I know of, this even, like, getting into the Jedi Quest series or anything, they argued, they bickered, but there was still this, like, bond. I with Qui-Gon and Xanatos, I don't feel that. I feel this constant tension and hostility. I mean, that Qui-Gon's trying to quiet down, but Xanatos keeps bringing up. So it's kind of just some foreshadowing, I felt like. And then we get to a couple issues in. I didn't really have that many notes to say, to be honest. I just kept reading it. And Xanatos' sister is shot, and I only wrote down shot, because sometimes, a lot of these times in these, like, series and stuff, somebody gets shot, you're like, but then they're fine. So I've gotten used to being like, okay, well, I have to wait to see if they're actually dead before I write down the note. So I just wrote down shot. But no, she is in fact dead. She is dead. Gone. And that does not help Xanatos, because he'd even want to be on the planet in the first place, but now he's, starting to connect with his family. By the end of it, we get with this brief confrontation between Qui-Gon and Xanatos' father. And Xanatos' father threatens a child, so I feel no remorse for him. But he threatens another Padawan. And so Qui-Gon kills him. Just straight up. He's a lot more like Anakin in that aspect, I feel like. I don't know. I know that Anakin, even though Filoni Baloney's kind of garbage, one thing that I felt was very accurate and very to form for Anakin was that he simply had no issue killing somebody if they were immediate threat to somebody that he cared about. No hesitation, no remorse. Because it's just who Anakin is. You kill somebody, or you try to hurt somebody he loves, well, screw you, buddy, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm the good guy here, you're the bad guy. Of course, I don't think Qui-Gon's super full of himself, but he does just, end his life. And that breeds, I think, an excellent origin story for a villain, as Xanatos is pissed because he was finally starting to make up with his father, only to have him die. And he even gets into a short confrontation with Qui-Gon, but commotions happen, and Xanatos gets away, and Qui-Gon lies to the Jedi Council and says that he died. What will happen with that? We'll have to read future stuff for me to find out. You might already know. But anyway, overall, I really enjoyed it. It's so great, because it's expanding the universe of the prequels, making it more interesting, making it more engaging. Now the next time I see Qui-Gon die in episode 1, I'm probably going to cry, because I never cried during that scene. But I might, if these books really hit me, and then I have that in the back of my mind as I watch the movie. Boy. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give a thumbs up. Sharing helps out a ton. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget, may the Force be with you.